Hello, my name is Zach Kim, and today I'll be discussing the psychological and developmental impact of drug use on adolescents. My thesis for this project is that adolescent and young adult substance abuse, specifically marijuana and nicotine, pose significant long-term risks to brain development, emotional regulation, and decision-making skills. By examining the targeted marketing strategies used by corporations to attract younger demographics and analyzing the specific impact of these substances during critical stages of neurological and cognitive development, this project aims to educate young people about the adverse effects of substance abuse, as well as encourage informed decision making among high school and college-aged individuals. To begin, we're going to talk about the marketing strategies of big tobacco. Um, Tobacco company advertisements are influencing young adults to start smoking. Adolescents who are exposed to tobacco ads often find them appealing because tobacco ads companies spend about $25 per person in the US on advertising, working to make their products look similar to products that people already know. This is very similar to the marijuana advertising that will be shown later in this slideshow. Um, but when young adults and adolescents begin using, it can cause significant effects on their brain and their bodies. Um, One of the most prominent effects is prefrontal cortex impairment. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for decision making, impulse control, and emotional regulation. And in the adolescence, this is still developing. Nicotine can interfere with the maturation and leading to impaired judgment and increased impulsivity. Another major problem with adolescent use of nicotine is that adolescents are more vulnerable to nicotine addiction due to heightened neuroplasticity, making it easier for nicotine to alter brain pathways associated with the reward system and dependence. Nicotine exposure can also negatively affect memory, attention, and learning capabilities by disrupting neurotransmitter systems, particularly acetylcholine, which plays a key role in the cognitive process. Some other effects are emotional and behavioral effects, um, which can cause mood disorders. Nicotine has been linked to increased rates of anxiety, depression, and mood swings in adolescents. And the addictive nature of nicotine can lead to riskier behaviors and poor academic performance as adolescents prioritize nicotine use over responsibilities. Some of the major physical health consequences are cardiovascular strain. Nicotine increases heart rate, blood pressure, and that can strain the cardiovascular system and set the stage for long-term heart problems. While nicotine itself is not the primary cause of lung damage, its delivery methods such as vaping and smoking can lead to respiratory issues and potential harmful chemicals, exposure to potential harmful chemicals. Um, some of the long-term effects of nicotine use is that it affects the brain's pleasure centers, ultimately leading to and being more susceptible to long-term effects and sustained use into adulthood. And it permanently alters the brain's structures involved in attention and learning and emotional control, leading to chronic cognitive and behavioral challenges. Nicotine is also associated with increased likelihood of trying other substances such as marijuana or alcohol due to its effects on the brain's reward system. For the marijuana marketing strategies, a study done by the National Library of Medicine of 469 adolescents aged 15 to 19 in 4 states with legal retail cannabis found that exposure to cannabis marketing on social media platforms such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram significantly increased the likelihood of past year cannabis use. Specifically, the odds rose by 96%, 88%, and 129% for the exposure on these platforms, respectively. Additionally, the likelihood of use increased by 48% with exposure to cannabis marketing on each social media platform. Despite advertising restrictions, adolescents are still encountering cannabis marketing on social media, suggesting a need for stricter regulations to mitigate this influence. Marijuana companies are often designing their products to lure adolescents, such as the Jolly Rancher gummies and the Doritos that we can see here on the screen. Um, these substances are disguised as consumer goods that they're familiar with, in order to lure them into using their products. Also, their advertisements are not too far off from the advertisements that we would see out on the road, which people are already familiar with, making them much more inviting for adolescents. So marijuana also has similar effects on the brain to nicotine. Um, the prefrontal cortex, as we said, responsible for the decision making and impulse control, is still maturing during adolescence, and marijuana use can majorly disrupt this process, leading to impaired memory, attention span issues, and learning issues, as well as reduced cognitive flexibility and executive function. It also poses increased risk of mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and psychosis. And marijuana use can hinder emotional control and increase impulsivity. In terms of other side effects, marijuana use is associated with poor grades and reduced academic motivation, as well as an increased likelihood of school dropout. Adolescents who use marijuana are at higher risk of engaging in risky behaviors, um, which can lead to dependence, adolescents developing substance abuse related to cannabis, and this increases the dependency rates for those who begin using at younger ages. Some of the long-term risks are cognitive decline. Persistent use often results in long-term or permanent cognitive impairment even after quitting. It poses social challenges, so adolescents who use marijuana heavily are more likely to experience difficulties in relationships as well as employment later in life, and it is a gateway to other substances. Now, one thing that we can do to mitigate these problems in use is to educate people, um, giving people the proper resources and support they need if they are currently using to quit their addictions. Policy changes and legislation can also have positive impact to getting these drugs out of the hands of the adolescents, encouraging them to use healthy alternatives such as sports or extracurricular activities at school, and addressing the underlying causes of substance abuse, such as early substance abuse or at home life problems or other mental health issues. Thank you.